Hello and welcome to Yoga and the Goddess and Yoga and Astrology. So this is going to double as both the Goddess flow and the Astrology flow. We are working with the Goddess Aphrodite today. And so Aphrodite is also known as Venus, and Venus has just recently ingressed into her home sign of Taurus. And so this is a place where Venus really loves to be. This is a place that exemplifies beauty, pleasure, the finer things in life. So if anyone of you know a Taurus rising or even a Taurus sun sign or moon sign or any real strong Taurus energy, you're going to see that refined taste come through with them. Also, Tauruses are often known for sort of overindulging in the finer things of life or the things that are maybe a little bit on the lazier side. I hate to say that they're lazy because I do know some really ambitious Tauruses, so I'm not saying that in any way, but I think that if you have strong Taurus energy in your chart, you are going to lean more towards copping out of the action than opting into the action. And that's okay. Tauruses are really great. Anyone with Venusian energy actually is really great to have on your side anytime that we need to call in beauty, love, sensuality, or even just particularity with the way that the aesthetic should be. And so Aphrodite, the story of her is that Gaia, the goddess of the earth, and Uranus, the god of the sky, came together. And that's the way the Titans before the Olympians came about, was through Gaia and Uranus. And Kronos, one of the Titans, one of Gaia's and Uranus's offspring, came in and slashed Uranus and took him down. And so he, in the process, slashed off some of Uranus's members, the lower body members. And they fell into the sea. And where they fell, the sea started to foam up. And from that foam is where we're told Aphrodite then comes about. And she is known to be the most beautiful goddess. She is the goddess of love and of beauty, of pleasure, of sensuality, of all things that are indulgent, right? And I find it really, really interesting that Aphrodite or Venus is a seedling or an offspring of the god Uranus. Uranus, however we want to say it. But Uranus is the god of upheaval. He is an unsettling god, a lord that brings about chaos when there's stability. And so what I find very interesting about that is when we think about the qualities of love or the qualities of Venus, oftentimes they come at a very sporadic pace. So they're never really planned, right? So if you think about when you're falling in love with somebody, it's not like one day you're making your schedule up and you say, going to fall in love with Jack today, right? No, instead it's something very much more Uranian than that. And it often will create upheaval or at the very least, destabilize the emotional pattern that we've already set in place. And so I find that really interesting because when we dig further into Aphrodite's story, you're going to see a lot of upheaval, a lot of unsettling stories that happen because of love, because of desire, because of passion, because of the beauty that she exhibits, right? And so I find that really fascinating to think of how Venus and Uranus are connected. And so later this month, Uranus and Venus are going to make one final connection in her home sign before Uranus moves into Gemini. And I think that that's really interesting because if you look in your chart and the place where Taurus is, you may find that there's just this one last push of destabilization that needs to occur before we move on to our next level in Gemini. And if you need help finding that, I am more than happy to help you with that. Okay, let's begin our Aphrodite flow. We're going to start on hands and knees. So some ways that you can work personally with Aphrodite is by inviting more beauty and more sensuality into your daily life. We're just going to find some free movement here in our table pose. First, exploring the sensations, the sensuality in the body. Notice the way that the fingers press against the mats. Maybe even the way that the wrists feel as the hands press down. Bring it all the way up into the forearms, the elbows, the triceps and the biceps. That observation of sensation in the body is very Venusian. When we talk of sensuality, we're not talking sex. Instead, what we're talking about is what can we feel? What are the senses experiencing? How do those shoulders feel? How are you experiencing this pose, this movement that you're finding in the body? How is the thoracic spine filling, that middle section, all the way up to the cervical spine, the neck? Maybe you get some neck rolls in there. And you can slow this down because Venus isn't about moving fast. Although sometimes it can really feel like it, right? When we're falling in love, it can really feel like there's this fast pace. And I think that that comes from the Uranus qualities, because Uranus will often come in like a lightning strike, and that's often what love feels like a lightning strike. All right, let's continue this. Belly, the lumbar spine, hips. Create some circles, some sways. How does everything feel for you today? And as we're thinking about how we're experiencing the sensations in the body, how can we offer this movement up to the goddess? Can we slow it down a little bit more? Bring a more awareness around the way that we're moving, the way it feels to move. And let's bring this down into the knees. How do the knees feel as they're resting against the mat? How do the calves feel? Maybe shake out that lower leg. The feet, the tops of the feet as they rest against the mat. Maybe tap them against the earth a little bit. Take a big full breath and find stillness. Nice neutral spine. Exhale that breath out. Pull the rib cage together. Fully empty the diaphragm. And then on your next inhale, sink those hips down towards the heels, but keep the heart and head up as you reach those hands further forward. When you exhale, let yourself lay over the thighs, potentially allowing the forehead to come down to the mat for child's pose. So in every movement we do today, if you can slow it down just a micrometer of slowness, and every time that you come into that space of slowing the movement down and becoming more deeply focused on the sensuality that's occurring within the body,
maybe you offer up a little prayer to Aphrodite and just say, thank you. Thank you that we get to experience beauty. Thank you that we get to experience love. Even through the chaos, thank you that we get to experience passion and desire. On your next inhale, round that spine and drag the hands back towards the knees as you rise up through the torso, crown of the head, reaching up to the sky. Take an inhale and bring those arms over your head. Clasp the hands together, pointer fingers out, squeeze the biceps next to the ears, and then take an exhale and reach over to the left side of the room. When you inhale, I want you to start to round through the spine and bring those fingertips towards the top of the mat. And then all the way around so that you're now reaching over to the right side of the room. Inhale back up through center. Exhale over to the right. And let's create that half circle again. Inhale, reach the fingertips round through the spine. Everything points forward. And then eventually bringing it all the way back to the left. And inhale back through center. Exhale those hands down through the heart. Let the thumbs touch the sternum and give a small bow here. In the name of love, in the name of desire, in the name of beauty. Lift the head, plant the hands, tuck the toes, and shift those hips back for downward facing dog. In your down dog, we're going to find that same free movement that we had in our tabletop pose. Really allowing the body to be the say-so for where the movement needs to occur. And then allowing the breath to precede that movement. Where can you slow this down and feel more deeply into the space of the body? Is there anywhere that you are maybe forgetting the pinky, the top of the ear, the right eyebrow? Where can you bring more curiosity and more engagement with movement into the body? Aphrodite is a very somatic goddess where we are experiencing the goddess through the body. Go ahead and start to gently walk those hands back towards the feet. Continue with that free movement if you're swaying the hips, if you're shaking the head out. And then once you reach the feet, just drip yourself down towards the earth. Take a nice bend to those knees to allow for belly-thigh contact. On your next inhale, we're very slinkily, waterily, very much like a ribbon that is being blown in the wind. Going to rise up, push down into the feet, round through the spine, articulate every little vertebra. And as you come all the way up, bring those arms overhead with you, gaze up, puff the heart. And then exhale, swan dive back down. We're going to do this 2 more times, each time getting a little bit more purposeful, a little more articulate in the spine. Every time that you come down, allowing full release. And let's begin second one. Rise up with purpose, deliberately articulating the spine, feeling heavy and luxurious. and sinking in or leaning into the pleasure of movement. Bring those arms overhead, puff the heart, gaze up, and then exhale, just as slowly diving down. Feeling into each muscle contraction to keep you steady, but also fully releasing. Finding something new every time that you exaggerate the movement. So one thing about Aphrodite or Venus that I have noticed while working with the goddess is that novelty is a huge part of what it feels like to lean into sensuality, to lean into desire, passion, and love. Last time, let's go ahead and start to round ourselves up. Nice and slow, experiencing that curiosity of where can I feel something more deeply? Arms will come up overhead. How can I change it up so it's not the same each time? Puff the heart and exhale, dive forward. Because we all know that in love, in desire, and in passion, when working with Aphrodite, there has to be a sense of newness, a sense of change. That's where the novelty comes into play with this goddess. Otherwise, things become stagnant. And if there's one thing that I believe that Aphrodite does not like, it's stagnation. Let's go ahead and walk the hands back out to the top of the mat for our downward facing dog. On your next inhale, I want you to lift that right foot high to the sky. Push down through the left heel and bend through the left knee so that we're nice and active in that left foot. Push up through the right big toe. And then bend the right knee and open the hips out to the right. You can stay here with both hands down, or you can come to the right fingertips. I like to gaze at my left thumb. You can stay here on the fingertips, or you can bring that right hand to the hip. Keep lifting that right knee higher and higher. Maybe the right hand eventually goes up to the sky. Wherever you're at in this pose, I invite you to step that right foot to the top of the mat. Bend into the right knee, drop the back knee down, and rise up with those hands going overhead. Take a big breath into the heart space. This is where I believe that Aphrodite lives within our body the most. The heart and the hips. And then exhale, clasp the hands and place them behind the head. Push the head into the clasped hands and open those shoulders, or rather open the elbows out. On your next exhale, we're going to frame out the right foot. We're going to tuck the back toes if they weren't already. Lift that back knee and step that right foot back to meet the left, high plank. Exhale it back, downward facing dog. Take one cycle of breath here, full inhale. And then exhale through the mouth. A very vocal sigh, letting go of anything that's not serving us. Because I think we all know that Venus isn't going to hold on to anything that's not serving her unless it is super sensual. And again, overindulgence is a quality of Venus. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she will hold on to things that are going to serve her. Inhale that left leg high to the sky. Bend through the right knee so that you're activating the entire right leg. And then try to push that right heel down. Lift that big toe a little higher, and then bend that left knee and open everything out to the left. Maybe gaze at the right thumb and come to the left fingertips. Maybe those left fingertips come to the hip, lift the left knee a little higher. And then finally, the left hand up to the sky. As you exhale, step that left foot all the way to the top of the mat. Bend into the left knee, drop down to the right knee, and inhale, both arms up to the sky. So if you're finding that in your own life, Aphrodite is showing up in more of one of those toxic ways, the overindulgence or the staying through a toxic situation because it feels comfortable, because for sure Venus wants comfort. Clasp those hands, place them behind the head, open up through the elbows. And if that's the space that you're operating with Aphrodite or Venus in, maybe it's a good time through this practice to ask yourself how you can break that pattern. Maybe you offer a little prayer or a little whisper or a song up to Aphrodite, asking for help with discernment in how to let go of the toxic love or the toxic desire. On your next exhale, frame out that left foot. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and step that left foot back. Take a big inhale here into your plank, and then exhale back, downward facing dog. Inhale, and as you're thinking about the more shadowy side of Aphrodite, exhale out through the mouth. Let a sigh go, and visualize whatever that isn't serving you, whatever may feel toxic or a little too overindulgent. Imagine that blowing away from the body here. 2 more times. Inhale. And as you exhale, let it go. Inhale. Exhale. Let it go. Inhale, right leg high to the sky. Bend that right knee, open the hip out. Maybe the right hand comes up. As you exhale, nice and slow, step that right foot forward. If you can't do it, you can have that right hand help carry the right foot to the top of the mat. And drop down to the left knee, rise up, clasp those hands, push the hands into the back of the head, open the elbows. We're going to rise up into Warrior 2 from this low lunge. Open it out. Arms extend, right knee bends, hips sink low. Take an inhale all the way up into the heart space, and as you exhale, pivot on that back foot so that we can come into Goddess. So now the back foot points to the back side of the mat. The right foot still points to the top of the mat. Sink those hips down and find a little sway here. Maybe straighten through one leg and then the next. Work through the shoulders, the arms, and dance with Aphrodite here. Two more breaths. Dance with the beauty of desire. Dance with the beauty of love. And invite a healthy connection and relationship with passion, desire, love, and beauty in. On your next exhale, stillness. Left toes point to the back side of the mat. Pivot on the back foot so that it's 45-degree angle. Reach right arm back, left arm up for reverse warrior. And then exhale, windmill the hands to frame out the left foot. Back knee drops. Inhale up. Hands clasped behind the head and open those elbows. On your next exhale, frame out the left foot. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, send that left foot back, high plank. Take an inhale here, and then exhale, downward facing dog. Give yourself 3 sighs. Shake out the head. Let the heart drip down towards the mat. Last time. Inhale, left leg high to the sky. Exhale, bend that knee and open up through the hips. Gaze at the right thumb, and maybe that left hand comes up. Next exhale, step that left foot nice and slow, as luxuriously as possible, to the top of the mat. Bend the left knee, drop the right knee, inhale up, clasp those hands, press against the back of the head, and open the elbows. As we exhale next, we're going to bring this into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Rise up into that strong warrior. So working with Aphrodite, it often takes that strength to be able to discern good indulgence from negative indulgence. Bring this into Goddess. The right toes pivot back. And once again, find that Goddess dance. So, for example, Aphrodite is a goddess that would be falling under the theme of self-care. We could have too much self-care, yes, but I would rather indulge in self-care than sugar, or too much sugar, too much candy, too much ice cream, and maybe that's a part of the self-care routine to a point. When working with this goddess, we really must operate with discernment. Next inhale, bring those arms up, sink the hips deep. Inhale, straighten the legs, arms out. Inhale, sink the hips, bend the knees, arms up. Exhale, legs straight, arms out. Inhale, last time, arms up, sink those hips down. Pivot that left foot so it's 45. Reverse the warrior. Exhale, frame out that right foot. Drop the back knee down. Inhale, rise up, hands behind the head. Open the elbows. Exhale, hands to the mat. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. Send that back foot back to meet the right, high plank. This time, exhale down to the knees and drop it down to child's pose. Let the forehead come down. The rib cage heavy against the thighs. And give yourself just several moments here thinking about the goddess of love, the goddess of desire. Pull her into your visual space. What does love look like for you? What does beauty look like for you? Because despite what our culture and society has tried to tell us, that there is a standard of beauty, there is a standard of love, none of that is true. It is so individually based. Ask the goddess, how can I be more authentic in my expression of love, beauty, passion, desire, sensuality? And how can I honor the goddess more fully in my life and move through a space where these qualities are exhibiting? On your next inhale, bring it back to tabletop. Tuck those toes, shift the hips up and back, down dog. Next inhale, right leg high to the sky, bend that right knee, open the hip out. Step that right foot all the way to the top of the mat. Inhale, rise up, high lunge. Hands to the back of the head, open those elbows, lift the heart. Exhale, Virabhadrasana 2. This time, maybe we come into a pointed toe, warrior 2. So come to the tiptoes. If the leg is quivering a little bit, that's okay. Lean into it and then reverse the warrior. Push out through the outer edge of that back foot. And then exhale, hands to the mat, drop that heel down, extend through the right leg. Pyramid pose. You have the option to keep that left foot flat at a 45 or lift the heel, point the toes forward. On your next inhale, halfway lift. If you need blocks here, I should have cued that earlier, but you're always welcome to use blocks. We're going to launch into that right leg, so take a generous bend to the right knee and lift that left leg as high to the sky as you can. Hold on to the mat. Maybe that right hand even grabs a hold of the right ankle. And we engage through that left glute to lift a little higher. Point that toe, straighten the leg. Exhale, send it back. Low lunge. Let's take this into lizard lunge. Both hands inside that right foot. Walk the right foot off to the right side of the mat. You can sink in as deeply as you would like here. You can land on the forearms, on a block. You can take a block and press the forehead against it. Wherever you're at, sink into this sensation inside of the hips. Maybe even roll to the outer edge of that right foot and then bring it back flat. Open the knee, close the knee. Open and close. One more time, open and close. If you're on the forearms, come back to the hands and let's walk that right foot all the way off to the left side of the mat for pigeon pose. Keep the right foot flexed. If you need, you can place a block up underneath this right hip. And we don't want to just sink down into our pigeon pose. So if you have the availability in the hips to just plop down here, refrain from doing so. Instead, really move from a place of inner thigh strength, pelvic floor strength, really hugging in through the inner thighs and the pelvic floor to keep that strength so that we don't just land or plop into a space that, yes, may be available, but also isn't always the most conducive for our bodies. It's not always the best in the long run to just sink into the space that's available within our bodies. And so we want to operate from a place of strength, which does remind me of Aphrodite in the way that overindulgence or indulgence in general, passion in general, love in general, beauty in general, isn't always what is best in our lives. And so we want to operate from a place of deep internal strength to sometimes resist the temptations that arise when working with Aphrodite. All right, from here, we can now let ourselves sink deeper into our pigeon as we come down to the forearms. Maybe stack the fists, bring the forehead down. And as you inhale next, come back to the hands. And we're going to glide this right leg all the way back behind or in front of the left knee. And then sink the hips down towards the left heel for kind of a cow pose, a cow face pose, but folding over the right thigh.
And the left heel, instead of being off to our right side, it's directly behind us. Again, you can use those blocks here. Every inhale allows some spaciousness in the hips. And every exhale, see where you can take this further, where you can deepen, or I hate the word sink, but sink is truly the word that I have in my mind. Sink in. Where can you sink in but with awareness? Not sinking without awareness, but continuing to keep that sensual awareness in the body. What's going on in the experience? Plant those hands and then meet in tabletop. Unwind the right leg. Tuck the toes and shift those hips up and back. Down dog. Take a big inhale. Full exhale, let something go. One more time. Inhale. Exhale, let it go. Next inhale, left leg lifts high to the sky. Bend the left knee, open the hips. Gaze forward and take a step with that foot to the top of the mat. Rise up, high lunge. Hands behind the head, open up through the elbows, sink into the hips. Take one more inhale, lift that heart, and then exhale, warrior two. Sink in, reach those arms out, maybe come to the toes here in that warrior two. If you're quivering a little, that's okay, reverse the warrior. Exhale, come back through center, sink a little deeper, and then drop the heel, frame out the left foot, pyramid pose. Remember, you have those two options where you keep that right foot at a 45, or maybe you lift that heel, point the toes forward. Let yourself drape over the left thigh. And on your next inhale, we're going to lift into our standing split. So we're going to get bouncy through that left knee. Pick the heel up if it already wasn't on the back foot. And then launch that right foot straight up to the sky. I like to take my left hand and grab behind my left ankle and pull the torso deeper towards the shins. Really lift up through the right big toe, strain through the leg. One more breath, engage that right glutes. And as you exhale, step that right foot all the way back. Land in your low lunge. Inhale, arms up behind the head, open the elbows, puff the heart. And then exhale, let's bring this back down into lizard lunge. Hands inside of that left foot. Walk the left foot off to the left a little bit more. Stay here, or maybe you sink down to the forearms. And let's find that open and close with the knee. Rolling to the outer edge of the left foot and then flattening it. Bring yourself back to your hands. And then walk that left foot over to the right side of the mat. Keep the left foot flexed, protect the knee. And remember, we're continuing with the engagement of the strength in the inner thighs and the pelvic floor here, so that we're not just plopping into the shape. Instead, there's a little bit of buoyancy here in your pigeon pose. This way, in the long run, what this is going to do is this is going to build the strength necessary to sustain the body. Instead of just ploop, and then it getting weaker and weaker, eventually, potentially, leading to injury. So even when we're in a more gentle flow or we're in a gentle class period, we still want to find those spaces where effort is necessary to keep the strength in the body. Sink down, and now we can start to walk ourselves forward onto the forearms, maybe even taking the forehead down to the third eye point. Offering ourselves a little bit of that Aphrodite indulgence here. So with Venus meeting Uranus for one last time in her home sign later this month, I think it is a beautiful opportunity to think of how we would like that unsettling that Uranus brings, or that disruption that Uranus brings, to work in that Venusian part of our life. Because even though when we first say unsettling or disruption, we might automatically think of that as a negative, we can actually look at what is already in the shadows of our life and how do we disrupt that so that it starts to shift in our favor. All right, come to the hands and then start to drag that left knee all the way back to the right knee. Sink the hips down towards the right heel and let the body fall over the right thigh. So as you're thinking about where disruption could actually benefit you, offer that up to the goddess. For example, if you're consuming too many sweets and it's causing bodily issues where you're not feeling good about yourself, you're not feeling good in the body, whatever it is, your energy's low, offer that up. I consume too much. Uranus, help to disrupt this pattern. All right, instead of coming down into our tabletop, we're going to simply sit down onto our bum, unwind the legs, and bring this into Baddha Konasana. So the soles of the feet together, lift up through the heart as you pull up through those big toes, and then exhale, round down. One more time, lift up through the heart, pull up on the big toes. Exhale, round down. Inhale, lift up. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a wider Baddha Konasana. So the heels are further away from the pelvis than in your traditional Baddha Konasana. We're going to glide the arms underneath the calves. Take the hands to the tops of the feet. You can have a block here if you would like. And then just let the head fall towards the feet, whether they touch or they don't touch. In this way, we are bowing to the goddess. Open hips, guarded heart, full of discernment. Recognizing where we can operate more fulfilled in the area of love, passion, desire, beauty, sensuality, all things pleasurable. Where can we be more fulfilled? Yet at the same time, with that guarded heart, with the discernment, where are we already operating on error of all of those topics, all of those themes? Where can we see that we're overindulging and we maybe need Uranus to come in and disrupt the pattern? As you inhale, nice and slow, unwrap those hands and rise up. Let's open the legs out for a wide leg forward fold.
Nice and tall through the torso, crown of the head reaches up to the sky. And as we exhale, toes continue to stay pointing up. We start to move forward here. Maybe you land on a block, maybe you completely pancake out. Crown of the head stays up or forward. But what I really meant to say is Ajna, the third eye point, comes down and rests if we have that ability. If we don't go very far forward here, and so the crown of the head truly is continuing to stay pointed up to the sky, we just sink in where we can. We find the release where we can here. Keep those toes active. Hips rolling back so that that external rotation continues to occur, no matter if we're here or here. And just breathe in through the nostrils. And maybe exhale out through the mouth. One more time. In through the nostril. And make as much noise, as much song sing as you can. And then inhale, start to rise up. Let's go ahead and swing those legs shut. And we're going to take ourselves all the way down to the back. Here today, since we're working with Aphrodite, even though I don't have any pillows, I don't have any blankets, I recommend that you go and get yourself some pillows, pause the video, get yourself a blanket, and for your final pose of the night or the day or the morning, wherever we're at in our practice, let yourself find the utmost pleasurable savasana that you can possibly find today. Setting yourself up for comfort, which is something that Venus really thrives in. Setting yourself up to experience pleasure through relaxation and restoration of the body. And stay in Savasana for as long as feels right for you. Overindulge today in your Savasana. Letting yourself fully steep in the medicine of the practice. The pleasure of the sensuality of the practice. And when you finally rise, give a small thanks to the goddess Aphrodite for the beauty that surrounds us daily. For love, whether we experience it with challenges or not. Most importantly, for the awareness around love, around desire, pleasure, passion. And then finally, maybe you invite more novelty, more curiosity into your life so that you can experience Aphrodite in her fullness. Thank you for practicing with me. Namaste.